you are going to hear tonight from several legacy leaders, including the amazing founder and first CEO, Jay Larson, as they share some very significant milestones that have set the stage for the next generation to move forward.
Yes, ITC has had some incredible leaders at the helm at the board as board chairs who have been instrumental in shaping the Idaho tech industry. So we are going to bring to the stage Vaughn Hansen, Paris Cole, and our current board chair, Reed Steffen.
This is power. This is power. This is power. This is
Wonderful. Take a seat. Take a microphone. Take a seat.
Wait a second.
Wait. Something's going on here. We have 4 chairs. We have an empty chair right here.
We do have an empty chair.
We have an empty chair.
I wonder who's supposed to be in the empty chair.
Hi, Jay Larson, everybody. Oh my gosh, he's made it back to Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Larson, you're back with us.
That was great. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Jay, I'm nervous. I really do not know where Jay is at tonight.
Carol, this is all about inspiring. Here I am. This is Chef Wiley, one of the best chefs in the Treasure Valley. This is who I've trained under. Y'all like it? There we go. See, that's pretty good right there.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay. That was right. What do you guys know?
You made it.
Wow.
Listening to Records with his sisters, Jay imagined a future as a PIP performer with Gladys Knight.
He kept dreaming, oh, that someday he'd be a star. But he sure found out the hard way. Dreams don't always come true, oh no. Oh, I'm gonna be with him on the midnight train to Boise.
Jay Larson, the one and only Jay Larson.
That was great.
No, I don't think you're going to be dancing tonight. No. Take a seat.
Well, thank you all. That was, I was planning to do a 360. I actually hurt my knee when we were doing breakdancing for the Olympics this last year. Did anybody see me? I beat the person from Australia, just to let you know. All right, so thank you very much for being here tonight. This is a great opportunity for us to talk about some of the past things that have taken place. We have 3 of our board chairs that I had the opportunity to work under during this time when we had the last 15 years, and it was an exceptional, honestly, a wonderful experience for me to be able to do that. But I want to kind of go back really quickly for me and just tell you a little bit about how the ITC started, if that's okay. I was at Boise State as a business leader several years ago. Yeah, thank you for whoever did that. But anyway, they always brought J.R. Simplot to speak. And I remember sitting in this thing and people were asking him questions, J.R., what's your secret to success, you know? And J.R. said, hell, the secret to success is letting go of the tree trunk. And he talked about how important it was for people to be able to take risks and calculate a risk, but you got to take risks before you step out, before you can do anything. So that was number 1. Number 2, I used to run Verizon Wireless for Idaho and Utah. And in 1998, I was down meeting with Governor Leavitt about a double taxation issue. And Governor Levitt said, I understand you just moved here from Boise. And I said, I did. I said, Boise is one of the most amazing places. And I would contend that probably from 1990 to 1998, Idaho and Boise was more of a tech hub than what Utah was at the time. And Governor Levitt said, I am so envious of Idaho because you have HP, which we're going to talk a little bit about today, and you have Micron, and you have INL, all of which are major places for talent to develop. And he talked about that. And he said something, he said, but you know how we're going to succeed is we're going to make it so he hired a tech czar from iOmega, and it happened to be Brad Wiskershen's uncle. And he brought him in and he said, he's going to be our tech czar, and we're going to get organic growth from people who have 5 technology companies that have 5 people to 50, and they're going to grow to 100 to 200, and we're just going to eclipse everything organically. And if you see, that's what they've done. Then I moved back to Idaho, and I had a chance to be able to work for a U.S. congressman as a state representative. I just traveled the state to see what technology was doing. And also, I after being introduced to Utah, after several things were taking place, a lot of people in my neighborhood in Utah were doing crazy things. They were starting new companies. They were CFOs, CEOs of early stage companies. I came back and there wasn't the fervor that was happening here. And then I realized that with the financial collapse, you peel back the onion and you get to see pretty quickly what takes place and how things are really happening with technology and how strong your economy is. So at that point, I talked with a lot of people in this room, and I said, we need to start the Idaho Technology Council. We need to have a voice from industry, from the people like are in this room right now, to be able to drive innovation and technology, because it's not anybody else's responsibility. It's not, we can't leave it to other, like government. Government's good, but government's not the answer here. It's innovation that takes place from business leaders and people who are taking risks to start and build new companies and new products and services that are meeting customers' demands. So that's why we started the Idaho Technology Council in 2009. And Rich Raimondi was our first board chair. Let's hear it for Rich Raimondi. Then we're going to go across here now. Now I'm going to turn into this panel, which is an esteemed group of people who have done amazing things. So after Rich, we had Rich Stuppy with Kinetics at the time at Count, which was another company that's been done an amazing thing. And then right after him was Von Hansen. I'm going to maybe make some introductions, but I would like to go forward on each one of you talk about things. Von, would you tell us a little bit about you and your story? And Von Hansen, by the way, was board chair for 5 years, and he had to put up a lot of suffering with me, and I really appreciate what you did, Von, because Von gave great counsel, great advice, as he worked as one of the founders of the LaserJet printer, which he's going to talk about. Go ahead, Von.
Thanks, Jay. I was, very lucky as I graduated from Utah State and then Stanford University to come here as my first job and joined HP. And that was in the 70s, 1976. And that was just a couple of years after the founding here by Ray Smellick of Hewlett-Packard as a division. And, Ray came with a charter to develop printers, and printers mostly for mini computers, larger printers. And, when I joined in 76, we actually started a project of a laser printer. And this printer was based on some technology that we acquired from Canon, some laser and electrophotographic technology. But HP basically built from ground up a laser printer. The thing about it, it was aimed at our HP mini computers. I spent 5 years working and developing that, put together this complete system with some really talented HP folks. And this, my first job here, we weren't even the building that, as HP's building. We were on Philippi Street in that little warehouse. And, it's just a small team that eventually grew. But that first laser printer, was $120,000 sales price when it introduced, 45 pages per minute. the product really wasn't a great market success. We sold it for 10 years. It wasn't a great market success. But what it was a technology success, because that led into a team that understood laser printers and understood the technology to drive those. And it really led into one of the biggest breakthroughs in Hewlett-Packard's product history. And that was in 1983, we ended up partnering with Canon on technology and started development of the laser printer that we all know, the LaserJet.
Did you have on this one, can you tell the story about Bill Gates?
Yeah, so that LaserJet, we targeted it not at HP products. It was a little controversial. We decided to target it at PCs, the PC market, which had just 2 years earlier, that IBM introduced the PC. So we targeted at PC market and ISVs, and really, it isn't like everyone agreed that this would be success or not, but that's where we targeted it. I happened to be coming back from a conference, SoftCon, in New Orleans, and sat on a plane with a buddy of mine from HP, Roger Archibald. And on that plane ride back, Bill Gates came and sat right next to us. And so on that plane, and this was in February of '83, we talked to Bill and says, hey, Bill, you got to consider supporting this. This is could be a breakthrough product. Well, 3 weeks later, I ended up going up to Microsoft and taking a prototype to show Microsoft, because here we had a product, back then, printers in that era, it's hard to believe, but in that era were noisy, not
Dot
very
matrix,
good quality.
Yeah. Dot matrix, yeah.
They were not great products. When we went up there, they were a little skeptical. Microsoft was skeptical, but I pulled it out of the box. We started it up and printed a page, and they couldn't believe that there was such a product, because in their mind they could see a PC with Word, the product Word, and a laser printer married together became the killer app for PCs and for the laser printer. All of a sudden, you could print off high quality documents. It's 300 dots per inch, 8 pages per minute. It was priced at $34.95, which was more than the PC. But it turns out that a few months later, we went to Comdex in Atlanta, Georgia, which is May of 1983 or 1984. Introduced that product, and it became just a smash hit. Line up of people looking at that product, and that product just took off. It just became a success that just grew and grew to be one of the most successful products in HP. And even today, 40 years, this is the 40th anniversary in May of HP's had of that LaserJet introduction and that partnership, with Canon. And 40 years later, it still dominates the marketplace, high market share, and they just keep introducing newer and better products. But it's hard to believe after 40
That
years
is
they
amazing.
still have that.
Von, all that was developed here by your HP team on the hardware and the software. So put a pause on that, because we're going to talk about talent in just a second with you
Okay.
on this one. But we're going to go over now to Reed Steffen, who is the current chair and the CIO, Vice President of St. Luke's Health Systems. And let's hear it for Reed Steffen. And Reed, get this. Reed Steffen also has HP in his roots, right? Reed, tell us about your story.
So started out in North Idaho as a Viking, went to Moscow as a Vandal, go Vandals,
Let's go Vandals.
and made our way here in '98 as Valley Dwellers. I spent almost a decade at HP working in cybersecurity, and I've always been in tech. Just had some really great formative experiences there. I learned how to be a leader of technologists at HP. Vaughn, you need to write a book. Like the story that you just told, that's such a lifeblood story to this valley. It's incredible.
No question about that. And so thanks so much. And one thing we're going to have you talk a little bit more about as we come back on the next one. Reed is also the chair, has been the chair for several years with the digital literacy team.
Sharon.
And Sharon Reberry did everything. So it's just, and we're going to have you talk about that in a minute. But before we do that, let's go to one important thing that we did is we always wanted to have really good board chairs because that helps bring more gravitas and understanding. And Paris Cole was the CEO at the time of truckstop.com. And truckstop.com is a self-grown by Scott Mosgrip company out of Idaho that ended up selling for almost $1 billion to Iconic. So Paris, tell us about your story.
Thanks, Jay. So since we're doing schools, so I'm a proud Idahoan, a graduate of Caldwell High School, and a proud Idaho State Bengal. So go Bengals.
Go Bengals!
But what I think is most important for all of you is, or what's interesting, is that I became CFO of, first I was CFO of Truckstop back in 2013. And that was an interesting time in terms of capital raising in Idaho. When I first started at Truckstop, we would talk with private equity groups, but they always wanted us to fly to San Francisco or us to fly to New York. There weren't very many coming to Idaho. But Truckstop, along with other great Idaho companies like Clearwater Analytics and Cradlepoint and T-Sheets and others, we were all growing at the same time during that, call it 2013 to 2022 or so. And it got to the point where I started getting inbound calls from private equity groups. And I'd say, hey, Paris, do you know the guys at Clearwater? Or do you know the guys at Cradlepoint? Can you give me an introduction? And I knew that they really didn't, some of them really knew Idaho well, and that was awesome. I knew some didn't know Idaho so well. They would tell me that they were in the neighborhood of New Plymouth, Idaho, and they wanted to drop in and see me. And,
one of these, just as a side note, one of these was Steve Young with HEGC. So just know that Steve Young came in, there was also one of these people. Just a side note. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so it was great to see the ability for companies in Idaho to have access to capital, where Idaho really became a spot on the map, where in 2013, when I started, like I say, no one was really, it was almost frowned upon that we were from Idaho. But by the end, everyone was excited, and we had people coming, and still do. There are still people coming into Idaho looking at all of the great technology companies that we have here in the state.
We'll come back on this really quickly. So right now we have a Vandal, we have a Bengal, and we have an Aggie. It's pretty cool. All right, so here's one thing that took place back in 2009 is that we've had David Spann. Where are you, David? I saw you earlier. Can you stand up, David? I know you're here. Where are you? Right here, David Spann. Look at David Spann right here, okay. And Rich Ramondi and myself. And we traveled and we did 12 focus groups throughout the state with the fundamental idea from Coeur d'Alene, Moscow, Idaho Falls, Pocatello, Twin Falls, and we did 6 of them here in the Valley. And we basically had leaders, Dan Puga, several of you guys were in these focus groups. And when we had these, we basically said, what is the biggest pain point you have with your organization, and how can we take those pain points so we can accelerate the growth of your technology company? And really 3 things always materialized, every time. It was always about talent, getting ideas to market, and capital. And so what Paris was just talking about is this whole idea. Capital is such a hard thing, and everybody, like, you would ask almost every one of these companies, and they'd say, hey, we're ready to give you money, but you're gonna have to move down to the Bay Area, or we're gonna have to move to Silicon Valley. You know, all of those things were always happening. They did not look at Boise as this really tech hub, which was really going that way in the 90s, but we had lost our way because we didn't have these companies that were early stage companies had not grown into middle market. So we needed a middle market, and that's what we have now. So let's talk a little bit about this. So Vaughn, talk a little bit about how this whole talent equation changed because of the HP deal. What are your thoughts there?
You know, I attribute the success of HP's LaserJet printer as really a starting point where we really started hiring a tremendous amount of computer scientists, electrical engineers, marketing folks, manufacturing folks, all types of technology challenges or technology folks into that organization. HP site became one of the largest sites in HP. That talent, they're very general purpose engineers, very general purpose talent. And I think HP, that big growth created quite a pool of technologists here in the Valley. And I think if you look at a lot of the startups and a lot of the history, including, both Rich and George here that we're honoring, both of those folks were very powerful executives at HP that were responsible for the success of the LaserJet product line. And here they're off in another company, an offer at Bishop Kelly, contributing, after their career at HP, immensely to that same story.
I want to do one test here, if everybody could. Okay, this is one. If you worked at HP, or you knew somebody, family member that works at HP, or you worked for a company that spun out of HP, please stand up. Please, really, take a look at this. I want to see. Okay, look, pretty amazing, right? Wow, I like that. Even more people are now standing. Thank you very much for taking the slow walk. That was the slow stand. I love it. All right. So you can see that. I mean, the catalyst that you were just talking about on this whole thing, Vaughn, this is the catalyst, right, that drove everything. So thank you for that. I'm going to now come over to capital. On this type of thing, you just talked about that capital as being a major draw on that. What did you know about capital when you first started the company, and how has it changed from now, and how are you helping other companies?
Yeah, when I started, I knew little about capital, certainly little about raising capital from private equity groups. And I think over the course of my career, I was fortunate enough not only to have my own experiences, but also to draw on experiences from others. It was fantastic to be able to talk to the George Mulherns, the Brad Wiskershins, and compare notes and see what they were doing and how they were interacting with these groups. And then now it's fun for me to be able to share what I've learned with others. And so to me, that's the great thing about being a part of the Technology Council and being a part of a technology company in Idaho, is that we're so willing to share what we know and to help others and to continue to grow this ecosystem that was started by companies like HP and Micron.
And this is great because Paris we have these 50 to the A, which is trying to get 50 companies, early stage companies, to the A round of funding. And this was over at with TM and Trailhead. And we had this deal, and I was just watching how many people came up to Paris and talked about that, because so many people have questions and are uncertain or thinking they're going to be taken advantage of, or they don't know the next steps on how they should do things. And Paris was so great to be able to just talk to them, and everybody that came there walked away and probably even had more time, because Paris has been really good about giving his time to help other people. And so thanks, Paris. Now on this part, on Reed, one of the biggest things we've always had was we have to be organic in the way that we grow digital literacy. And one of the things that happens is you watch across the country, the states that start having really looking at ways to be able to get digital literacy and computer science foundational in their programs are the ones that are really excelling. And Reed, talk a little bit about what's taken place under your tutelage and what your thoughts are about digital literacy.
Yeah, I would answer it this way. When I joined St. Luke's 14 years ago, I was impressed and surprised by the breadth of roles that you need to have to run a health system. You would be hard-pressed to find a position in any other industry that you don't have in healthcare. And then with that comes talent pipeline challenges, and in particular in technology arena. So then being able to fill and staff these roles was challenging in a way that I'd never experienced before. And so that led to looking at workers out of state. It led to hiring contractors to fill roles. At the same time, I spent 11 years on the Valley View School Board. And every May, we would graduate hundreds of students in that district and across our state who are bright and capable and have the aptitude. And so it's not an issue of a lack of talent. It's really an issue of not having the awareness of those career pathways and providing the right training and opportunities for that rising generation. And so I've tried in my own limited way to figure out how do we bridge that? And how do we ensure that with the ITC being an advocate, that we create that connection for these young students, that we provide training for faculty, because we have this incredible resource right here in our state, and they're just not aware of what's literally right in their backyard in terms of an incredible career.
And that is great. And just recently, we just had, and it's really important to have alignment all the way through the system, right? So Debbie Critchfield, as our superintendent of education, thanks Debbie, has got through the State Board of Education. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so under Debbie's leadership, and this is phenomenal, so they have a recommendation is in place to add a graduation requirement around digital literacy, and I'm thrilled for that. Yes.
Let's hear it.
There's still persists an idea that a computer science class or a digital literacy class is only for someone that wants to be a programmer or a technologist, and it's just false. This is the modern language of our day and age, and we're graduating students each year that aren't prepared for this modern world. So this recommendation next year, when it goes forward to be approved and then enacted, that's our role as the ITC, is to be wind in that sail to help that become a reality.
Thank you so much. All right, so we kind of, we have a couple other things. There's one of the big things when we had these 12 focus groups, and we've done probably 22 throughout the time we've been with the ITC, was that we need to have a voice for policy. And so there was a situation, and I want to see if I can go to Paris on this one. There was a situation where the Idaho State Tax Commission was coming back and said anything downloaded on a computer is a taxable event from 1986 tax policy that was established. So at that time, you would go over to truckstop.com and you talk to Paris and to Scott, and you say they were being probably sent hundreds of thousands of dollars in back taxes that they were going to have to pay.
Millions.
Okay, thank you very much. I did not want to, I soft sell that. I'm sorry, you guys, it's millions. And so we saw this, and Rich Stuppy sent me a text, and he goes, Jay, if we don't do this, it's the air going out of the tires for our technology industry, because they will go other places, like you were talking about going over to Ontario, right, where they didn't have any of the issues. Can you talk a little bit about that and why policy is so important to be able to drive, set in the right environment for technology in Idaho?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Jay, so back in 2013, 2014, this was a real issue for us since we sold everything on the internet. And from our perspective, we had no product. So we didn't think it was fair, quite honestly, to pay a sales tax on something that was intangible. But as much as we wanted something different, it was really difficult as a single voice to make change in the government. And so that's where we were able to partner and meet with Jay and partner with the ITC, and it was really the ITC and your efforts that were able to convince or help the governor and others understand the impact that a tax of this nature would have on Idaho companies and Idaho, not only SaaS companies like Truckstop, but others as well. I mean, the ramifications were pretty broad, and so this is where, again, I think the ITC has been so great in helping companies like Truckstop and others.
And that was fundamentally, you guys, this is really important because the governor did not want, he gave me a call and he goes, can the ITC take this over? I take this, and we already had about 20 meetings on it, so it was really good. When Governor Otterwood saw it, he said, you know, Jay, did I do that very good, guys? I think you need to take this on, and it was our number one issue. And thankful for people. He said, I can't sit there and just represent individual contributors who give to my campaign and those type of things, but if it's a group, it becomes much stronger of industry folks. And if you think about it, everything that you do, every company that's out here is probably uses a SaaS or a cloud services cloud, and it's grown exponentially ever since 2013. So thanks for that. And public policy is a big driver. Okay, we're going to our last questions. Vaughn Hansen, you have now worked for built one of the biggest products that's ever been on, for HP, and now then you also helped with another small software company. What would you say is the most important thing that we need to do as we look forward and as we build on the past to be able to build innovation and help technology companies grow in Idaho?
Of course, I feel that having good talent is important, and I mentioned that earlier. I think having talent that's available, that's helped the education system here, which I think has greatly improved. In the last 40 years, the computer science engineering from the universities here has greatly improved, and to me, you need talent and education and be able to have that workforce available here.
I love it. So keep doubling down on education and the organic side of things. One thing I wanted to make sure is that Vaughn was, when we were talking about this, talent was such a big thing because you can see almost everywhere where talent comes in because of HP's catalyst here. But also the intellectual property that was generated there was phenomenal with the software and the hardware. So thank you. Paris, any thoughts what you would say now? And by the way, Paris is, tell them what you're doing right now, Paris. Just give them a window into your changing world.
Yeah. So since I retired from Truck Stop, I've gone back. I'm in the process of getting a Master's of Arts in Teaching degree, and I'm currently doing my student teaching at Caldwell High School. So it's been fantastic.
Let's hear it for Paris. And are you getting this from Idaho State?
I am getting this from Idaho State. Where else would I go, Jay?
That is no problem with that. I just want to make sure we put that Idaho State out there, right? So, okay.
Yeah, like Reed and Vaughn, talent is so critical for everything, and especially in a community like Caldwell where, there's a lot of students with many needs. And so I see technology as a way to allow those students to achieve their dreams. And so that's why I'm doing this, and I know that's why Reed and Vaughn, it's not just to help companies, but it's to help people, most importantly. And so yeah, that's how we're going to grow the technology sector in Idaho is by starting with these students and helping them.
I think STEM education too, starting way young, having the ability to have programming classes and science, technology, math, and have that really emphasized throughout all the education levels.
It touches every industry, right? And I love this, that one of the big things we do things from a technologist, and something that I've seen is not only was Paris an esteemed leader with the people that were at Truck Stop, but he cared, he wanted to make a difference. And this is what you're seeing it all the way through, what he did at Truck Stop, what he's doing right now in the classroom. So thanks so much, Paris. Now my last one, let's hear it for Paris. Vaughn, thank you. But I do have, my last one is that if you sit there and you're on a Zoom call with Reed Steffen and he's at his house, you'll see a vandal flag behind him, right? So that's a really big view of eye. Then you'll see a John Wayne poster right behind him. So I'm a big Western guy, and John Wayne had a quote. He said, "Courage is being scared to death, but still saddling up." All right? So what does that mean for technology companies as you think about this, Reed?
Well, my favorite John Wayne quote is, "Life is hard. It's even harder when you're stupid." So, and I've put that maxim to the test. It is true. What Paris said is right. This is about people. Like, we all love tech. At the end of the day, it's about people. And so my parting thought is, never underestimate the value of relationships, the connections we make, and never hesitate to amplify something amazing someone else is doing. The rising tide that creates benefits us all.
Love that. Thank you very much. All right, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to all stand up, and you know how you saw the Gladys Knight and the Pips, the Boise the Pips? We're all going to sing this song. It's called Lollipop, Lollipop.
Jay,
and the
you're out of time.
Okay, we're not. That was just okay. Thanks,
I'm going to take over now.
Lollipop, lollipop, okay.
So, Jay, go ahead and have a seat there because, thank you. You got this? Yep. I'm going to go here to the podium. Jay, you saw maybe when he came up, he's moving kind of slow. He's had some cosmetic surgery done on his knee, but he's doing better. We have a
St.
couple.
Luke's, no, and thank you very much for that cosmetic part.
Yes. In that spirit of just recognizing the great things others do, we have 2 awards tonight we want to give out. One is to Jeet Kumar, who is the outgoing board chair. Jeet is the CEO of In Time Tech. Those that know Jeet, yes, great company. He is phenomenal, an incredible leader. He's not here tonight. So Dan Puga, president of In Time Tech, is here to receive on his behalf. So Dan, come on up. And the bass on this stage is thumping. It is something. Dan, will you please convey our love and appreciation to Jeet? He is, those that know Jeet, he has a phrase of creating abundance. It's not just a catchphrase. It's how he actually lives his life. We've blessed as a family directly from that. So thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Jay Larson. Stand up if you can. Jay, two things come to mind as I look at you. One, you are the only person here who could realistically win a Jeff Goldblum lookalike contest.
Thank you.
You all see it. It's a gift. The second thing is you are the only person here who is the founder of the ITC. And so in all seriousness, 15 years ago, you founded this. Your vision, your leadership, your energy has blessed our state and this council in so many ways. The foundation you've built, we're going to continue to build upon, but none of this tonight happens without Jay Larson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay, actually, I'm going to call an audible. Jay, stay here by me.
I've tried to cut these corners.